Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us this evening to our Talent is Universal, Opportunity is Not webinar hosted to you by the Gary Kirsten Foundation. Thank you so much for your time. And I know we might all be suffering from virtual fatigue, but I think this is an important conversation to be had, and it's really great to have you here. So like Ryan said, please leave your comments, any questions, any suggestions that you might have in the chat panel, because we want this to be engaging, interactive, and we can't solve the world's problems, but I think this conversation, starting it off, will really go a long way in helping us to solve them. I'd like to introduce to you my esteemed panel. I've got Proteas cricketer Lungi and Ngidi all the way from Dubai. Lungi, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. And GKF founder and coach extraordinaire Gary Kirsten, thank you very much for your time as well. And Ju, I think the viewers you're our third panelist. We great to have you here. Like I said, engage with us because it's not a one-way conversation, and we'd love to hear from all of you. The procedure of this evening is going to be very interactive. Like I said, we're not stiff upper collar. We want to keep it flowing in a relaxed way. We're going to have a quick Q&A with Lungi and Gary. When I find out about Lungi, the T20 squad was announced today, and that's really exciting. And then from then on, we're going to talk a little bit about privilege and look at some of the work that the foundation has been doing. It's been a year hit by COVID, but the one encouraging thing is that the foundation has kept its doors open and the work hasn't stopped. And I'd love to hear from Gary and as well as Madoda, who will also be joining us later on some of the great work that we've been doing. But before I waste anybody's time, I think I'm going to get us going. Lungi, good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I mentioned that. But first of all, I think that's on everybody's lips is congratulations on making the T20 World Cup squad. We're also proud of you, and it must be a thrilling feeling.
Thank you very much for having me. Got the news today and very excited. Honestly, I can't wait. I'm speechless at the moment.
And I mean, does it ever get you went to the World Cup in 2019. Does it ever get, the feeling of being selected, does it ever grow old, or is it always like, it's your first day at school?
To be honest, I don't think it does, because I was even sitting today thinking, how lucky and how fortunate I am, because one day you're not going to get a phone call. It's all going to stop. So, appreciate it while it's still happening, and appreciate it every time it does happen. Yeah.
For sure. And the world of traveling and sport has changed, Gary. You're a head coach, you've been in bubbles. How do you approach, a tournament like this where the bubble effect has such a big impact?
I don't know how they do it, to be honest with you. I've had a little taste of it. I was joined the Dutch team as a batting consultant a few months ago, and I was there for 10 days in a semi-bubble, and I struggled with that. And then we had the 100 competition where it wasn't really a bubble, and I struggled with that. So I don't know how the guys are doing it. It's something that you can't underestimate. I think it's an amazingly tough thing for the players to go through. And certainly having chatted to many of the players, the guys that have been in a lot of bubbles over long periods of time, I remember chatting to Imran Tahir before the 100 started and the journey that he's been on with all these bubbles. And he had to check in with himself. He got depressed at one point. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to cope. He had to change rooms because he was getting too depressed in the one room. So it's a real thing that's happening to the players, and we've got to appreciate what they're going for, because at the end of the day, we're still getting really entertaining cricket on TV.
For sure. And Lungi, do you have any coping mechanisms that you sort of taken on board while adjusting?
To be honest, you just try to keep as busy as you can. I think if you do nothing, the four walls start to close in on you. You just try to stay active, keep your mind going. But yeah, I've also had my struggles and had to take a break as well. So, and I thought it's something that would never happen to me because I'm pretty okay with my own company. But yeah, eventually it gets to you and you just, you don't know what to do, but sometimes you just need to check in with yourself, like Coach is saying.
For sure. And I think going back to the topic of today, talent is universal. When you were growing up, picking up the cricket ball, at what point did you realize that actually I can make this my career? And And what sort of next steps did you get? Because we all know your story, and I don't think everybody really understands just where you've come from and where you are today, because for me, it's phenomenal. And if you could just take us through your journey, and at what point you realized, actually, this is the career for me.
So it all started when I was 7, and I didn't become a bowler because I thought, oh, I just want to bowl fast, and I actually didn't have kit, so the only thing I could do was bowl. I didn't have any batting kit, and I saw that you don't really need much kit other than shoes if you want to bowl. So picked up the ball, and that's how I started bowling. Yeah, and from then on, I took to it, and I just started enjoying it more and more, and I saw as well that you get more opportunities with the ball than you do with the bat. So, I thought that's one thing I enjoyed as well. So I stuck with it, and I just carried on playing, throughout the years. Yeah, going to different district trials and stuff like that, and just trying to work my way through the levels of cricket. But I think it was probably in about grade 6 or 7 where I thought, I could probably make this a career, but I wasn't too sure at the time. But the final decision I made was in grade 9, where I said, okay, I'm taking cricket as my career choice, and I dropped everything else. And I used to play a lot of sport, and it was a hard decision to make, but I knew, I had to make that sacrifice if I really wanted to excel at what I was currently doing. So yeah, I think in grade 9, I actually made the decision that, this is my career.
Again, I encourage everybody to jump in. If you have any questions for Lungi, any thoughts, any comments, please come in. But for me, you say, you didn't have the kits, so you decided to bowl. Where did that opportunity come from? Who gave you that lifeline to say, come here, here's a talent, let's get him out there?
So it was actually dads and lads. They used to play at the school that my parents worked at, so that they built us a little house on the premises, just for years of service sort of thing. And yeah, and both my parents were domestic workers, so buying a cricket bat was way out of the question. Yeah, and they used to play, and I used to watch every weekend. And eventually one of the parents, I think he noticed that I was always there, and he asked if I wanted to come join. To be honest, I'd seen what or how to do it, but physically never done it. So I learned, and yeah, that man gave me that kickstart, that yeah, why don't you try? And then they coached me every weekend until I got better and better. Then I took cricket up at school, and then the coaching obviously improved there. And I think with that coaching, I was able to then progress a lot quicker than I thought I would. And before I knew it, from under 7 to I think under 11, I was already attending those district trials and, trying to make teams. So, that transition happened very quickly, just with that small level of coaching that I received from a young age.
For sure. Here's our first question from Will Gaffney. Lungi, first of all, congrats. Did you ever feel as if the lack of kit prevented you in your development as a player? I mean, you could have been, an opening batsman like Gary here, but, you went and became a bowler. But did it ever stop you at all from achieving your dreams?
I think it did slow me down in the sense that, my cricketing career became, I wouldn't say one-dimensional, but there was a specific focus. I think maybe if I had had that kit, I would have tried to excel at both aspects of the game equally as well. So, and having bowled for so many years and just being a bowler, you sort of tend to neglect the batting side, but you obviously take care of the skill that you have to. But my focus definitely went one direction because that's what I started doing. And, I think I only got my first kit that was mine in grade 6. So, for all those years, borrowing kit, that's even if people wanted to lend you kit. If not, then, make a plan, see what you can do. So yeah, I think it did, in the early stages of my career, definitely put me on one path that I knew, okay, well, this is basically the way I have to go, sort of thing.
For sure. And Gary, I mean, 7 years ago when the foundation was started and you headed to Khayelitsha, you must have seen that same appetite as well, you know, like children really being excited about having resources and that opportunity.
Yeah, Laurent. I mean, I think the big thing for me was just access to the game of cricket. There was no access to it. There weren't any fields. There was no kit. There was no cricket programs running, certainly in the areas of Khayelitsha that I went to have a look, which made me really sad, to be honest with you. Yeah, you got a national sport, but there's a you know, the biggest township in Cape Town didn't have access to the game of cricket. There was nothing happening there. So it's amazing with kids. Lungi it's such a great story about how he got into cricket. And I think just exposing kids to the game will bring them to the game. And then you start to see the talent and the skill, because there's always one kid that's ahead of another kid and he just picks it up quicker than another one. Some guys can pick up a cricket bat and you can see they can, you know, they've got some coordination. Other guys put the ball in their hand and suddenly, you know, they've got a beautiful action almost straight away without actually a huge amount of coaching. That for me is the really exciting thing. And I think it's, you know, whatever we can do, those that have had privilege in the game, to provide that access, I think is vital.
For sure. And you speak about privilege, which is a very interesting word. Lungi, I mean, you said, you know, you spoke about your parents and their working situation, but you were taken from a place of no privilege and taken to a place of privilege in Hilton College. How was that transition and how did you adapt?
So yeah, it was difficult, but I knew the situation that my family was in. So, and I think I was lucky to recognize it from a very young age. So I knew that I had to make this work. You know, I didn't see a second chance coming, and this was the one chance that I'd been given, basically. So yeah, you know, as a young kid as well, I'd always struggled to speak English. So even going to the, you know, preschool and all that stuff, it took me a while to adjust.
You've learned it really well.
Practice makes
you wouldn't
perfect.
say.
Everything. Practice makes perfect. But yeah, you know, I struggled with English and I had to learn and I had to work my way through that. And then, yeah, you know, when I thought, okay, now I'm doing all right, then you get offered another opportunity. I first got offered the opportunity to go to Highbury. And, you know, that was for all the sports, you know, swimming and rugby and all that stuff. But I also had to adjust there because this is an environment that I'm not used to, you know, coming from a poorer background than the guys that are there. You sort of feel like you don't fit in because, you know, you don't come from the same type of life. But, you know, once we stepped out onto the field, everything was equal. It was just a matter of skill. So, you know, that's basically how I made myself feel comfortable. I always knew that, okay, even though in other aspects of life, you know, people are far ahead and, you know, a bit more successful and, you know, a bit more privileged, but on the cricket field, you know, we all come back to the same level and it's a match of skill. So yeah, you know, I was always in my head sort of thing, you know, just telling myself that this is the one chance that I've got, so you got to make it count sort of thing.
Yeah, that's so inspiring. Gary, do you think there's still a stigma towards talent that comes from townships to those that come from elite schools? Because talent is talent.
I really think it's changing, and that's the exciting thing. I mean, I'm inspired by Lungi's story. You know, the one thing I really enjoy about what he says there is, you know, I've been privileged to have sport as being part of my life, and he makes the point that we all equal on the sports field. I always look at cricket and I say, cricket's a common language. Doesn't matter where you're from. When you get to a cricket field, we talk the same things, we do the same things, we behave the same way because we all want to do well, we all want to perform, and we all want to win games of cricket. So there's a way to do those sort of things. So you will see someone that hasn't necessarily had great opportunity previously to being in a privileged position or being in a strong position now. He's going to put in the hours. He's going to put in the hard yards as much as the guy who maybe has had privilege but realizes this is my chance to play in this team, whether it's to play for the Proteas or to play first-class cricket. And we all behave the same way when we come to that. So I think it's a beautiful analogy that Lungi has used.
And to everybody, we're going to be wrapping up with Lungi soon, so please get in any questions or comments or thoughts. And Lungi, a question here from Justin Ford. Do you feel enough is being done to provide young girls and boys access to facilities to get an opportunity to play sports? Because at the end of the day, opportunity is all that everybody asks for.
And that's actually such a great statement. You know, opportunity is literally all you ask for as a young person, or whatever you're trying to make it in. And I honestly don't think enough is being done. You know, there's certain areas where you can see the difference, but I still think there could be more. You know, I've said before, I think the talent of our country is hidden in the darkest corners, and we don't even know, you know, who these kids are, because, like Coach said, they have not been given the opportunity to go out there because there's no facility to do it. So you're gonna go a different way in life, you know, because that opportunity wasn't there. And I think if more could be invested in just, you know, the facility side, you know, and that's one thing that I'm very happy about that I've heard tonight, because that's all I needed when I was 7 as well. It was just a field, 2 pairs of stumps, and a batsman at the other end, or even if not, just a ball in my hand. But because the field and the opportunity was there for me to be able to at least try, you know, the sky was the limit after that. So I think more could be done. You know, I've been on a couple of trips myself where we go to townships and we, you know, we try help where we can. But with a busy schedule, I can't always be there. And you know, I'm passionate about something like that, but then when you come back and you see that the consistency is not there, that's what really hurts me. Is that, oh, you arrive this month, but then for another 6 months there's nothing there, and then you'll pop in again another month. You know, there's no, I don't think any growth can happen like that. So I think the consistency is key with the opportunity.
Yeah. Great comment.
So question very left field from Masibongo Zonke. Lungi, how hard was it to integrate into professional cricket from the Varsity Cup?
I didn't expect it to happen all so quickly. So, you know, sometimes you still have that little element of, do I really, you know, belong here right now? I thought it would happen a lot later in my career. But before I knew it, you know, I was sitting in the change room, I think at the age of 22, with Dale Steyn and Hashim Amla and the guys. And just a couple of days ago, I was watching these guys on TV. So, no, like it was difficult a bit, but you tell yourself that, you know, this is what you've been working for, you know, and then you remember back to being in grade 9, deciding that I want to play cricket for South Africa, and now it's here. So got to grab that opportunity. So yeah, it was a little bit difficult, but you also got to realize that you're living your dream now. So, you know, take it and run with it.
Sure. I'm just getting the last few questions for you. And I think for me, I wanted to ask this question. So Candace, Christy, thank you very much for it. Should we be offering scholarships to privileged schools or developing cricket in underdevelopment areas? Based on your personal experience, what do you prefer? I don't think there's a right answer, but I want to hear your thoughts.
So the thing is, I've seen this as well. It differs from person to person. So for myself, mentally, I think I was prepared to stick through whatever I had to go through in a different environment, having been offered a scholarship. But I also realized that there's other kids that aren't so comfortable and aren't really comfortable with adjusting to that different environment. I mean, just taking someone out of a certain place and sticking them somewhere else doesn't necessarily change everything. You know, the opportunity is there, but you still also got to go to school there. You got to live around the people. You got to fit in. And if you don't, your first element is to basically shut everyone out and to run back to what you're comfortable with. So I personally think developing underdeveloped areas for kids is a lot more beneficial than just taking people out of where they're comfortable, or you know what they're used to, and just sticking them somewhere else and saying, okay, well, here's your opportunity. Because that's not really, in my eyes, that's not really giving an opportunity, but in a way it also is. I mean, the facilities and the training, everything definitely improves. I can honestly say that, having gone to Hilton, my cricket excelled a lot quicker than if I had been probably at any other school, because the facilities and the coaches were there. But also I had to, like I said, I had to fit into the environment. And I think that's key. If someone is not mentally willing to fit into the environment, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for them. So yeah, I think more the development than just offering scholarships. I mean, there comes a time where someone needs that, or a certain kid will need that. And I think you can sometimes tell, if you, like I said, if you do the consistent checking up and seeing how it's going, you'll see if it's working or not. But instead, sometimes I feel it's just take him and put him there and then see what happens, sort of thing. I've done my part. It's all up to you now. And it doesn't work like that.
No, for sure. Gary, I don't know, I mean, you work with a lot of these talents and they do get poached to these elite schools. What is your thinking around it, and how do we, make sure that it's sustainable, because it clearly isn't?
Yeah, Loretta, I mean, Lungi is absolutely spot on. I mean, I would like to echo that. And certainly the journey that we've had over the last 7 years, just going into a small area in Khayelitsha as a case study. I mentioned it earlier. You cannot do anything with the game of cricket unless you create some decent facilities, because cricket demands that. It does demand that you have concrete nets that you can use, just even that, or something that you can work with. So for me, it's a bit of both. I think it's a great opportunity for a young black kid out of the township to be given a scholarship at an elite school. I think it's incredibly tough. Certainly within our foundations, we've had success stories, but we've also had not success stories where guys have really battled. And I agree with Lungi completely. I think if we want to have a sustainable program that works, we've got to create cricket schools of excellence in the township regions where the kids are most comfortable. They're in their communities and they can walk, a couple of 100 meters to a wonderful facility where they can go train. And we are seeing the fruits of that through the foundation in Khayelitsha. We've got 350, 400 kids now playing cricket that have never played before. And of those, you find 10 or 15, they're going on, they're playing representative cricket, So I think to create some sort of a kind of a pathway of opportunity through the township areas is vital.
For sure. Lungi, I'm wrapping up. I've just got 3 more questions. One from Swoom. Congratulations on making the T20 squad. What is it about cricket that was so appealing to you as opposed to other sports? You mentioned you did play quite a few. How did you eventually decide on it? Were you just that good?
First of all, thank you very much. And no, I guess it was just that connection that I had from that very young age, because that was the first sport that I witnessed live. You were pretty much like in front of me, yeah. And having watched it on TV, I'd obviously watched it on TV, but when I saw it in person and how much fun everyone was having, that's what I wanted to do. And, even to this day, I still have to remind myself that, don't forget to have fun. Because, everything that we do now, there's so many eyes, there's so many opinions, there's criticism, there's this and that. You forget that, why am I actually playing this game? So that's why I chose cricket. I did enjoy my rugby and, swimming and water polo and all that. But from the minute I experienced cricket, I fell in love with it. And, in times like these quarantines, you sit and you think about it, and you have to appreciate it. But that's why I chose cricket.
For sure. And the last question, Laurie and Kevin have the same question, but what do you think needs to happen so that in the next 6 years we have other Lungis like you, without having to go to Hiltons? We can find them in their own environment and make sure that they still become Proteas.
Well, the work that's been done right now by the foundation is a perfect example of what I think a lot of people need to buy into, if they want to give back. You first, it's got to come from your heart as well. It's got to come from you as a person. You got to want to do it, and I think the most beautiful thing I'm seeing right now is passionate people of wanting to see the game of cricket grow. And I think I fall in line with that, because if I could and if I had the time, I would be a lot more hands-on with helping kids, and trying to develop the next Dale Steyn or the next Rabada, things like that. But I just think it's got to come from the heart, and people got to want to do it. That is the biggest thing for me. And obviously, having the foundations in place, it's the perfect thing as well. As coaches said, 300, 400 kids, coming through to play the game of cricket. I've never heard those numbers before. Even the camps that I do go attend with the Proteas guys, you don't see those type of numbers. And then, having them go on to represent, play representative cricket, I think that's exactly, this is the perfect example of how it needs to be done. And and I must say, kudos to you guys, and thank you very much for all the work that you guys are doing as well. It really does inspire me to also get up and try even harder to do more. But I think what we're seeing right now is the perfect example of how we need to go about things.
Gary, lots of hard work for you. Before we let Lungi go, Gary, do you have any last thoughts, any parting words for Lungi?
No, it's an absolute privilege to have him on, and just to listen to him talk. And for me, it's always been about that. As I journeyed into the township 7-8 years ago to go and just actually find out for myself what was going on. And the key for me is that it's not about me telling people what to do. It's about listening to what people need, and that's inspiring. So so much is possible in South Africa when we've got the right attitude around what we want to do. We can work together. The common language, as Lungi says, is the game of cricket. We all love the game of cricket. So we can use the game of cricket as a vehicle to, unite as people for a common cause, which is to create opportunity. That's it. We just need to create opportunity for more kids. Lungi was, went to an elite school. It could have worked, or it couldn't have worked. It ended up working. But for every one Lungi, there's 20, 30, 40, 50 kids that don't get that opportunity. They don't have fields to play on. And there's a lot of talent out there. So we have a responsibility. I mean, we just one case study, of a small area in Cape Town, but there's a lot to be done, as you say, Lorata.
For sure. But Lungi, thank you very much. All the best in the IPL, the World Cup. But most importantly, thank you for being such a role model. I mean, you're an inspiration to so many. And your heart to give back, to stand up for what you stand for, it's really inspiring, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Good man,
No
Lungi.
pressure, Coach. No pressure. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Good man. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was a great conversation. And Gary, before we go to the next piece of this wonderful evening, I just wanted you to throw back to what we're about to see. We've got this video of some of the work that the foundation is doing. Could you just talk us through a little bit about it and why you wanted to commission this?
Yeah, it's very exciting. The title of the documentary is called Privilege, and we're going to get a little short version of it for those on the session to watch. It started off as just wanting to take some shots of the under 13 team that we took to the World Cup, from the foundation team we took to the World Cup a few years back. But it's grown some legs, and it's now developed into a more significant documentary around, the difference between privilege and non-privilege in South African cricket. So it's very exciting, and the hope is that it presents a way forward for us as cricketing people in this country. Is Tim gonna? There we go.
If you're a South African that is playing or being involved in a national sport. I don't think you'd be doing yourself any justice if you didn't go and have a look at the sport that you've played your whole life and see how it operates in all the different sectors of society. I met a guy by the name of Mr. Madora, who was the principal of the Chris Harney High School. We connected very quickly. It took me to about 8 schools, and I didn't see one sporting facility. People from outside Kalisha, they've got different and mixed feelings about it. A perception, a serious perception is developed that it's unsafe, it's a no-go area.
Kalich has always been a sort of half an hour drive away, but there was no reason being a privileged white Cape Town guy to ever go into Kalich.
Before I thought cricket is for white people. It's white people's game. That's what I thought. I could never see a black person playing cricket.
And I think it's sort of been driven home more as I speak to people in Kalich. They say that, you know, they say we've never picked up a cricket bat in our life. It's a very privileged sport.
But we want to break those barriers so that people can go beyond. And we're using sports as a unifying factor to say that we are all equal, we can learn from each other. You can visit my home, I can visit your home. We can share food. You can learn my language, you can learn your language whilst we're playing sport. I just think that I've been given so much privilege through the game. I just wanted to, I guess, try and provide as best I can an opportunity that gives young guys with talent, of which you will see just so much of it in the townships. An opportunity just to explore that talent.
There's a lot that goes into it, and it's not just a case of saying, cool, here's a bat and a net, and here, go play cricket. That's not what equal opportunity is about, you know.
Why not give a group of township cricketers a chance to go and have an exclusive experience that most would dream of?
A lot of them never been outside of Cape Town. I don't think any of them have been on a plane. And I think it's important that we figure out what change is possible because of this tour.
I just believe there's an opportunity for us in this country to build sporting schools of excellence in the townships, so that you don't have to displace a young talented kid out of his community for him to realize his potential or realize his talent, that he can actually grow his potential and his talent in his community. But it's starting to happen. Once this is finished, the artificial service, the next week we hold our centre. This is incredibly exciting. 4 years in the making to dream come true.
These kids, they become my friends. They're not just only players to me. At the end of the day, if you're a coach, they must know that you're a mentor. They must know that you're a role model.
I never played the highest level, but I spend most of the time coaching, being with kids. Not all of us will be players.
Our vision was to build an artificial cricket field in the townships, essentially to be one of the phases of us building cricket excellence in this area. This artificial cricket field is amazing, amazing facility. It's going to be well utilized. It's a beautiful surface and field. A lot of effort's been put into it.
Every time you go into Kalich, people are more positive about what we're doing, and they can see that we're here to stay. The foundation's been in Kalich for 6 years now.
So now I understand. I know how to score. I know everything about it.
It's about social cohesion. It's very important what sports does to bridge in the gap.
Wow. Thank you, Gary. Wow, that's looking forward to see how that goes. But in your words, what is privilege and what message are you trying to get across here?
Yeah, Lorata, I think we've spoken about it quite a bit, and obviously with Lungi sharing into it as well, it's simple, just providing opportunity in areas that wouldn't have that opportunity. You know, you can go around under the mountain in Cape Town, and you can go to, you know, 8 or 9 schools, and you'll look at the facilities there, and it's incredible. I grew up in one of those schools. You know, I grew up with never having any issue about cricket kit, about a professional coach, about hitting as many balls as I wanted to on great surfaces. That was never an issue. Opportunity was always there. So when you invest into creating infrastructure that allows for that opportunity, very powerful things happen. And we're seeing the fruits of that now. It's not easy to build those facilities. You need people to help you along the way. The company Home Choice were our principal funders and sponsors of the artificial field, which cost over 4 million rand. We've had funding for our coaches from government, from Sport and Rec, over the last 4 or 5 years, which has been incredible. Adidas have provided us with all the clothing that we've needed. Penbev have provided us with all the drinks that we've needed, and this is over a long, period of time as well. Both, Spur have come in, provided us with food for the kids. So there's been a lot of amazing donors along the way. Kevin Grant from White Calling, who helped us massively on our tour overseas. There's been help along the way, and we've got a lot of people to be incredibly thankful for. I think of Nando's, who provided us with all the food that we needed on our tour to the UK. You know how expensive it is to eat there, but we pretty much could have a meal every day at a Nando's in the UK. I think of Bob Skinstad, who raised basically half the funding that we needed for the tour in one event whilst we were over there. So we've had incredible help from people that see what we're doing, and believe in what we're doing, and that's exciting.
For sure. And I think, like Lungi said, the hard work's only just starting, because we've had our COVIDs, we've had so many disruptions, but I know the goal is there, the vision is there, and we'll pull out all the stops to make sure it happens. Before we bring on my daughter to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing with the foundation, I saw a question here asking, when is the documentary dropping? You see, you've got people excited now. We all can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah, Lorata, I'm actually not sure, to be honest with you. It's been kind of a long time in the making, but I think we're getting closer to the end. But it's been a long time in the making. But I think the guys that are making the movie, there's a lot of moving parts in South African cricket at the moment, and there's a story to be told. There are more stories to be told, so I think they're just making sure that they want to be really organized and detailed around that. And it all kind of, there's real purpose to it. I think that, for me, if someone said, what would you want out of that documentary, is that we can find a solution going forward in this country as to how we make cricket a real, a vehicle for social change and cohesion, in the country. And I think it's really possible. But there's a lot to cover before that, but that would be the exciting bit.
For sure. Well, I'd like to welcome our next guest on, Mr. Madoda. He's also a board member at the GKF, but also been there from the beginning with the GKF when they went into Khayelitsha, and really has played a pivotal part in bridging that gap, because you can imagine, you know, Gary, I'm sure when you first went there, you know, there might have been some pushback. You know, sometimes it's an understanding thing, sometimes it's a communication thing, but I think Madod has really played a pivotal part in making sure everybody understands and the community is open towards the work that you want to do there.
Yeah, it'd be great to see Mr. Madoda. He's my great friend, and absolutely, as you've mentioned, Lorata, he's been the integration into our vision and making it happen in the townships with the buy-in from the community. And I think that's very important. We just enablers. It's not, you know, this is not our project; it's their project. And what a great man! Where is he? Is he on the call?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Larato. Good evening, Gary. Good evening, Tim. Good evening to everyone who has joined the conversation. Unfortunately, I was warned earlier this morning when I was preparing for this, and I was told, please don't be at the beach, don't run, no, either don't be on the car. And unfortunately, I've broken the rules because there's an agility here and the flexibility that you can meet and talk with anyone everywhere. Doesn't matter where you are. I don't want you to tell you where I am. I'm in town. I just came from work and I felt, no, I must just park my car outside and join the conversation. It's quite a privilege and an honor to have worked with the Gary Kirsten Foundation. But I must also say thank you very much to Lungi. Lungi reflects and exactly speaks to heart on the issues that are facing the majority of the Black kids in the rural areas and also in the township. The landscape is totally the same as what Lungi has presented to us, that when he joined cricket at the school that he was at. There was absolutely nothing and no space and no conducive environment to play cricket. But also at the end of in the middle of his conversation, he spoke about water polo. He spoke about rugby. I'm still saying, wow, what a privilege that he could move from a school without any other facility, but also have an option of facilities that he could use. He could be exposed to at the school. But going back to exactly why we're here and the work that you are doing, it's quite a privilege. Let me put it again, that I had a great friend in Gary Kirsten and the team. When we first met, the first day I met him, we clicked on an issue of development of the child. Wherever the child it is, give an opportunity for the child to grow. So what an amazing work that we have done at Khayelitsha, and I am very proud to say I have been associated with this development, which came from absolutely nothing, when you could have seen the landscape of a school where I was a principal, and compare it 7 years ago, and compare with the enthusiasm, the character of the child that came from that school, the character of the child that came from that community. Before we were talking about the sport itself, how the child, how the community, how the people in the community had grown to love the sport, have grown to appreciate the people around the sporting development. But the catalyst for me was to bring an acclaimed World Cup renowned person like Gary and step into my office and say, I'm here because I want to know how best you can help. I want to know what is it to be at Khayelitsha. And amongst the message that Gary and I shared was that, Gary, I'm a cricket follower. I have been part of the cricket, but being a principal of a school in a township in one of the most poor communities in the country, I'm constrained. There are no facilities for these kids to do better. Let's take a walk about in the township in a radius of, from where I was at Makassar, in a radius of 10 kilometers around the schools. There was absolutely no decent, in fact, take decent away. There was absolutely no sporting facility for netball, for soccer, for rugby, for the halls for choir. There was nothing. For a community that services almost 50,000 school-going kids from grade R to grade 12. So there was absolutely no facility. How then we have transformed that particular small community to have the love of cricket, to start and to put in bricks, building bricks within the school community, and also to say, most importantly, that as a foundation, we have got to service the kids within the community. Do not go and take out kids from Kailecha and send them to Rondebosch. That's the principle. Create an ecosystem within the community that the kids are going to relate with, that the kids are going to, and their parents are going to relate it. So that when the kids coming back from school, they join the same thing that is done at the Rondebosch, the same thing that is done at Weinberg High School, the same thing that is done at Bishop, so that these kids can have a feel. So I can tell we have ticked most of the boxes, not only just for the paper exercise, but also for sustainable development of the sport. So one thing I'm very proud of what we have done is how we have pitched in and created an atmosphere that is a world-class environment for us to be able to say that in the next 3, 4, 5 years, a Lundi will be coming from Makassar, playing for Western Province, playing for the national team under 21, and so forth. So
absolutely. Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
No, I'm done. Thank you very much.
To interject there, I mean, earlier this year, I was speaking to Asake, who made the SA under-19 team. You know, he is a product of the foundation, and he went on. But, you know, the one thing that he said to me, and it stuck with me, is like, you know, my family is so proud. The community is so proud. And that just shows you that it's not just about cricket, Gary. It's about the wider community and the impact that you can make there.
Absolutely. I mean, you can listen to Medora just talking about it so passionately, and what the work is that is required. And as I've said, I mean, our foundation work is just a case study of what is possible. And I remember going back a long time. I mean, it was an arduous task to start building artificial cricket fields and indoor centers and everything. It costs a lot of money, and you need support, incredible support from people. But our vision was to say, let's make one work, and then we can show what is possible. Make one work, because everyone's pessimistic about it. There's no ways a kid can come out of the townships and go all the way to the Proteas. It just doesn't happen. He has to go to an elite school because that's where the opportunity is. And if we can change that narrative and shift it where kids are you know, coming straight out of the townships into representative teams and going on to the highest levels of the game, that's the great story of South Africa.
Yeah, and on to a more recent thing. I mean, we saw Team South Africa, and you know, a lot of people were saying, you know, the representation is skewed towards the minority, you know, where's the talent? And that goes back to what my daughter was saying about infrastructure in the schools. I mean, that's a bigger problem that, you know, we wouldn't be able to solve. But I think having facilities like this really is that step towards giving the access, giving the opportunity, and, you know, unearthing those gems, my daughter. You're on mute.
That's one rule I've learned to forget every day when we have a conversation. They mute and unmute, so I'm always caught off guard. I'm saying that, and Gary, it is one thing that defines us as coming from rural areas, as coming from farms, as coming from township, that the basic necessity in the infrastructure is lacking there, both in the community and also at the school level. There aren't any facilities, and it needs a private sector to come in and help our communities. So if there was no partnership to be a facilitator like the Gary Keston Foundation, I can tell you today, Chris Ani and Mpendulo Primary School and the schools that we've given them nets will still be the same, because when you go to government, who is the primary provider of these facilities in the community, they will say that we don't have money. It's been a lot, we don't have money. Our priorities are not for sports development. Our priorities are not for facilities at school. we are only going to there to build in classrooms. So for a school to have such a world-class facility, it's something unknown. It's something that makes the whole environment change. It's a facelift of how people would appreciate that particular environment. It's a facelift of how the community can use and appreciate such a resource. So it is indeed one of the greatest obstacles for development, that schools in the rural community, schools in the township do not have these particular facilities. And I can tell you, go and have a walk in Kailisha, in Soweto, in Mlazi, you'll find the same situation. Go and see how people in Ngobo and Mkanduli in the Eastern Cape and Kuankoa will have. So it's still going to take us a long way to bring in black kids, township kids, poor kids into the mainstream of, of sports development across, not only on cricket, without the facilities.
For sure. I'm from Ngoa and I agree completely. We're going to start wrapping up, and I'm going to encourage any last questions, thoughts, comments that we might have from our guests and our viewers. But Matod and Gary, you guys mentioned a very important element, which is funding and fundraising. I mean, we've gone through COVID. We've been fortunate enough to keep the doors open, having the coaches, still getting their salaries, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And Gary, I just want you to talk to us about, the new fundraising initiative will be starting from Monday, and just how everybody can get involved.
Yeah, thanks, Lorata. And I think for us, we don't take this lightly when people do donate and make a contribution to the foundation. The beautiful part about it is that we know that it's going to where it needs to go. That's to paying for the ecosystem that is created. It's the coaches and it's the facilities. And the more money we get, the more we can spend on upgrading those facilities and making it that area a genuine cricket area of excellence. That's our vision. That's our goal. Is we want to produce great cricketers, and we want the Chris Harney High School under 15-18 to host Bishops under 15 and give them a hiding. That's what we want. I mean, that's the goal, and it's coming. Because there's a lot of talent out there, and once you create opportunity for talent, and you put a team together, and you've got a good coach, you can be anywhere in the world, and it's going to start happening. So I think Tim can probably talk to the actual nuts and bolts of how people can fund the foundation and donate into it. I know we've got a new mechanism that we want to use. Tim, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So as Gary mentioned, we've been lucky enough to have a lot of major sponsors come on board: government with the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Home Choice, Millennium Trust with the Indoor Centre, to do all of the things with the pictures we were showing now. But what we really want to do is grow a network of supporters that doesn't just rely on major corporates, that we can build a community of supporters that don't necessarily all have to donate a huge amount. It's difficult times for everyone, but if you can donate monthly a small amount with our platform and our network of supporters, that'll go a long way. So what we're going to be doing from Monday is we are starting with what's called a Global Giving Accelerator. So Global Giving is a big international fundraising platform for charities, and they're doing an accelerator, which is a challenge to us and to other charities across the world to raise at least $5,000 from 40 unique donors. So we'll be sending out more information from Monday, sending out a bit of a media blitz, but also you can get in touch, info@GaryKirstenFoundation.org.za, or keep an eye on our social channels, and we'll be sending out more information about that. And yeah, whatever, we realize that not everyone can give huge amounts, thousands of rands or dollars, but we feel like there's enough of a cricket loving community in South Africa and across the world that can see the value in the type of things we're doing. So we invite everyone to sign up
to register for that, to donate whatever they can afford per month, or doing once off, and send around to everyone. So yeah, keep an eye on your emails and on our social channels, and all the information will be there.
Thank you, Tim. And just as we wrap up, I'm going to get our final thoughts from Madoda and Gary. But Madoda, in your answer, could you just also answer Masibongo's question, how do the kids in Khayelitsha apply to join the foundation?
So it's so easy. We are working with schools in Khayelitsha. So any of the schools in Khayelitsha, there is a contact, and then we've got our coaches. But if Zonke is struggling to get in touch, can get in touch with me, or go to Krisani High School, or go to Impendulo Primary School, those schools, or go to, I'm not sure where exactly is he in Khayelitsha, but then we will be able to communicate and be able to refer them to the nearby schools. There are also games on each and every Friday now, which will be starting very soon, in order to get the ball rolling again, because the season is starting to come back again, or the season is back in terms of the training of the kids. But you don't have to even have to a child in Khayelitsha per se. But if you can take your child in the afternoons, or wherever you have time, to send those kids at the particular school for those sessions, it will be made available. But I think Tim will also be communicating directly after this to update all of us in terms of the program moving forward for anyone who wants to join. But most importantly, as we have started, the journey for us is about sustainability of the program, is to ensure that we are rooted in the township, and we create the best gem out of that. And most importantly, as one of the things that Gary has already alluded to, is that we want to showcase the whole world that it's possible to be done, and we can do this particular thing that we've done in Khayelitsha, and we do it across South Africa, and be an agent of change. But also we're looking for really partners, both as individuals and also as companies, to come in and assist us, because without any support in terms of funding, I must put it, we would not have been here. And it's one of the most important things. And during COVID-19, a lot of people and a lot of businesses have closed down. There is no longer that extra fat that they need to cut in and help us. But we do understand the situation. But as long as you can hook up in so many partners and people to sell this noble project and this noble cause that we're doing as a foundation, in order to have my passion and my like about this is to give an opportunity for these kids to be out of streets. If you look at the social problems that we face in the township, both for boys and girls, there is no other vehicle that these issues can be resolved if we don't incorporate sports, if we don't incorporate arts, if we don't incorporate things for them to do when they are not having anything to do at home. So it is indeed our cause to assist to break that cycle that seems to be crippling the communities that we are living at.
Absolutely. And Gary, in closing, a question here from Justin. Did you ever think you'd be using a ring light for interviews? You do know what that is, right? in all seriousness, though, what's been the key for the foundation to ensure sustainability? And to bring in Nosipa's question, could the foundation possibly be moving to Durban as a second center of excellence there?
You know, we'll go anywhere where we feel the model can be successful. And the key to it is buy-in from the community. You got to build relationships. Like anything in life, it's about relationships. I think the strength of Madoda and our relationship has built out what we created there. That's how it started. And if you can build trust in terms of what your vision is, remembering as Lungi so rightly said, you know, he mentioned that cricket is a common language for us all. you know. So we came we arrived in Khayelitsha in the name of cricket. We found there was a common narrative, and that meant we then needed to build the relationships of trust, so that we were serious about what our vision was. And once that trust was in place, anything's possible.
Spot on. If there are any more closing remarks, I think, you know, we've come to the end of this wonderful conversation. Sincere thank you to everybody who joined, who participated. You're our biggest supporters, and, you know, we couldn't do anything without you. Gary, my daughter Lungi, thank you so much for your time, you know, and your insights and your inputs.
And thank you,
Lorata. Who are here.
Lorata,
thank you very much.
What a legend.
And we hope to see you soon when we've got more news about the foundation. Have a good evening, everybody.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Sissy. Thank you, team. Have a good evening.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.